Over 29 million voters are now registered on the voters' roll. The Electoral Commission has updated the media at its headquarters in Centurion on the outcomes of the final voter registration drive that took place this weekend. 1.7 million citizens interacted with the Commission by either visiting the registration stations or using the online voter registration portal. IEC Chief Electoral Officer Mamabolo says KwaZulu-Natal recorded the highest volume of registration transactions, followed by Gauteng and the Eastern Cape. Well, for analysis on this, we're joined by independent elections analyst Michael Atkins. Michael, good evening. Thank you so much for your time. Really do appreciate it. Before we begin to comb through the minutiae of the numbers, Michael, I perhaps want to ask you an observatory question, normative, if you will. Would you describe the two voter registration drives that the IEC had this year as having been successful?
Absolutely. I would say it is a success. I think the numbers are encouraging. The numbers of younger participants are very encouraging. So I think the Commission can feel well pleased with their work in these last 2 months.
Yeah, I particularly want to look at the numbers of, as you mentioned there, younger voters. And I want to show you this table right now, Michael, of the young voters that participated and interacted with the system this past weekend. They registered 73,775 new voters registered across this past weekend across the country. But what is staggering is that about 46%, so nearly half of the new voters that were registered over the two voter registration weekends, 46, almost half of them are under the age of 29. Does that track with what we've seen in previous election cycles, or is this entirely a new phenomenon for the IEC?
Look, we've always had, a fair number of the new registrations being young people. It is their first opportunity to vote in many cases, or they missed out last time and now they're there. So it isn't on its own a major departure, but it is a strong figure and it's an encouraging figure. And I suspect that we'll find the online portal has played an important role in this as well. But then, of course, the political analysts can pay attention to KZN and looking at the strong showing there and whether there are any sort of particular factors or political factors behind the extra growth in KZN.
Yeah. Has there been healthy participation in the by-elections in KZN since the last local government elections to now?
The figures are mixed, and I don't think we can draw any particular conclusions. There are a lot of factors in turnout with by-elections that are not the same as either local government or national elections every 5 years. So we can't draw any real inferences in those cases.
Yeah, I want us to take the overall provincial breakdown, a look at those numbers, right? Because youth participation is one thing, but of course, it is not just young people participating here. So here's a table of how the provinces, by and large, performed, Michael, over these two voter registration weekends. And it is fascinating there that KwaZulu-Natal, Gauteng and the Eastern Cape are leading with new registrations. Do you anticipate that might be an indication that the metros in those three provinces are going to be the most hotly contested? 2 metros in the Eastern Cape, 1 metro in KwaZulu-Natal, and 3 metros in Gauteng. And of course, a number of secondary cities across these provinces.
Look, it certainly, again, will be interesting to analyze. It's too soon from the overall figures to be able to tell. We actually need to go down to per municipality and compare the figures more closely. Also, the Gauteng and KZN being the largest provinces, you expect to have the higher figures. But again, KZN in particular is interesting because KZN has fewer registered voters in total than Gauteng, but had quite a stronger showing. But KZN's always been a little underrepresented. So our registered population hasn't quite kept up with the overall population. And again, the political analysts can tell you whether this is a sign of any changes in intentional behavior among our citizens here.
Yeah. Michael, you noted that there's a noticeable variance in voter turnout during a national government election vis-a-vis a local government election. Do we have any sort of literature and or data to help us answer the question why that is the case?
Look, it is a common phenomenon worldwide that local elections, for some reason, are not seen as being as important as national elections, albeit that this affects people's daily lives. Now, our sort of understanding of turnout was really messed up 5 years ago with COVID. The turnout took a huge nosedive in that period. So in 2016, we had a turnout of 57% in local government, whereas in 2024, we were 58 point something percent in the national election. So we expect the turnout to increase this year from the 2021 figure of 45%. I personally doubt that it will be as high as the 57 from 2016. But the big question is how much of a rebound there is in voter turnout. Certainly the voter registrations have rebounded strongly. So I would say the registrations are a partial sign of an increased intention to participate in the elections. It's the only signal we have is of an increase again in turnout.
Yeah, Michael, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much for your time, your insights, and your analysis on this. Really do appreciate it. Michael Atkins is an independent elections analyst talking to us there on voter registration weekend, the final of the two this past weekend. However, it's important to note that the voters' roll have not yet been closed. So you still are able to go onto the website of the IEC should you want to register.